Sup guys, I figured I'd make a YouTube video because I haven't made one in a while, and I won this cool costume contest at my kava bar that I go to, a bit of a kava bar regular, and I won this like cool light setup. It's pretty dope that I can like change like the light kind of on the thing a little bit. I could even go, I think I can go different colors if I wanted to. I like that green. Let's keep green. But I want to talk about a little bit about like how I became conservative and like my shift in thoughts. So when 2008, when Obama got elected, I was 10 years old. I was born in 1998, so that makes me about 10 in 2008. And I remember when he won, and I was really excited. I was very happy. I was like, yeah, cool, Obama got elected. And it's pretty much because, I only knew Bush pretty much. Like, I know maybe Clinton was like a year in me being birthed in 1999, 2000. Yeah, so maybe a couple years. I don't really remember any of Clinton's administration. I just know a couple of years I was born in that time. And then I pretty much only knew Bush for since I was 10 years old, and I didn't really know any of Bush's policies. I still kind of don't. But when I was 10, I know that Obama. I don't know why I figured like somebody said shh. But anyways, 10 years old, I was just happy. And I remember on Nickelodeon, they had this like voting thing, and it was pretty cool because it was like you could go and vote, who you wanted to be the president. And they both, like McCain and Obama, spoke, and they were just like, no matter who you vote for, just make sure you're being happy as an American citizen. And I remember like Obama won that, and it was just a pretty clear cut prediction that Obama was going to win the election. So he did win. And yada yada yada, everyone was happy. And I remember being in 8th grade, maybe like a few years later. I was 13, and one of my teachers said, well, pretty much this is how it works with politics. The Democrats are for the poor and Republicans are for the rich. And that's just, being a kid, that's just what I assumed was true, because when you hear this from an adult, you're just going to believe the adult. And then politics wasn't really talked about too much in public school, which I was kind of glad about. But I remember being in high school, and like someone talked about like the pro-life, pro-choice thing, and she goes, well, it's literally not even a baby, it's a clump of cells. And I just assumed that she was right, and I was like, yeah, I'm pro-choice, and I'm not going to say if I'm pro-choice or pro-life. I think that's a different topic. But I just I think there's a lot more to the argument than just it being a clump of cells or not. But regardless, and when I was a senior, one of my teachers goes, oh, I can't believe people would vote for Donald Trump. You know what I mean? She's making a mockery. And I do agree, no matter what side of the party system you're on. I remember he talked about John McCain as, someone who, he didn't like because he got captured as a POW in, what's it called? Was it World War II? No, it wasn't World War II. It was the Vietnam War. Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was like, I was like, damn, the rhetoric there was pretty, unjustified. But hey, if you did like Donald Trump's policies, that can be an opinion to have. But I just remember my teacher said that, and I just like, yeah, why would anyone vote for Donald Trump? Fast forward, I joined the military, and I remember being like a couple years in, Donald Trump was pretty much the president most of my enlistment. And I remember the senior year, I mean, he was a little bit more seasoned than me, and he goes, yeah, you know what, I like Trump. And he didn't say it like how I said it. He was like, yeah, I like Trump. Like, it's concrete, he liked Trump. And I don't know why, like in my mind, I was like, oh, he's a racist or something. Or I was like, why do you like Donald Trump? Like, he's the bad guy. And I remember being 18, and, I couldn't really vote because I was overseas in Guam. But, whoever won the election was going to win the election. I was kind of like, I'm 18. I don't really need to vote in this election. And what's it called? Donald Trump won, and I didn't really care too much. I was a little shocked, honestly, but I think a lot of people were, to be honest. And so yeah, I don't know, like nothing really changed my mind until I kind of that meme came across the internet, was like, changed my mind. And it was about like white male privilege. And this is my opinion on white male privilege. Look, like I just remember like growing up in Market Middle. A lot of I went to middle school with XXX Tentacion, which was a famous rapper. And even being 18, you know, I remember having black leadership and black airmen that were my peers. And, you know, eventually people are below me that are black, people are a higher rank of me than black, or equal to me in rank. I mean, you know, so I was like, okay. Yeah, I just didn't see too much of something I was getting that somebody else couldn't do. And I do think that, you know, when people come into the Air Force, they might come in and have grown up around a different culture than maybe someone else, whether it be a black or white person. Maybe we had different cultures, but at the end of the day, when we signed up, we all go through Lackland Air Force Base, Texas. And we all passed, you know, through boot camp. We all went through our tech school. And we all got stationed at our base, and you're pretty much like, you're kind of a civilian when you're in the military, you know, as in you got to follow civilian law. You also got to follow the CMJ laws. And you know, I just never really saw like something that I was receiving that other people didn't get. I think everyone that got deemed like bad airman really was a bad airman, and it had nothing to do with their skin color. Because you look at our you know, Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, which is a black guy. Like, people made these ranks, and people got up in the, you know, did well in the Air Force regardless of skin color. You know, they tested well, they were in, they had no disciplinary action. You could make it no matter what color you were. And then fast forward, when I got out of the military, like, I struggled as a white man, you know what I mean? I was like, man, like, this shit kind of sucks, you know? I was an Uber driver, which, you know, a lot of my white friends made fun of me. They were like, oh, it's an immigrant job. And I was like, oh shit. But regardless, like, eventually I got into mortgages, and, you know, worked with black people, worked with Hispanic people, and getting an insurance. You know, like, not going to get into it too much because I know it's still kind of in the works, but I've tried to get into insurance for the past like 6 months. But regardless, I just never really saw race. You just growing up, you know, like, my father grew up in desegregation times. I didn't even know this until like I was like, you know, 19, 20. But he had said, like, yeah, that's when they were, you know, sending black people to the schools. You know, they were pretty much integrating race into schools at that point. And I was like, you know, it's kind of like crazy. Like, my father grew up in that versus me. I grew up mostly around all different colors. I think my middle school was predominantly, like, the majority of the race in my middle school was black. And then when I went to high school, I think it was kind of a big mix in between. There were a lot of black, it was a high school, so a lot of black students and a lot of white students, a lot of Hispanic students, being down here in Florida. Even me myself, I am a Hispanic man, but also a white man. And so yeah, I mean, I don't know, it was just one of those things that Steven Crowder kind of debunked a little bit. And he kind of threw out statistics that I didn't know, you know. But he had said that, you know, like, you know, black communities with the Black Lives Matter thing kind of pretty much only is talking about police brutality, but they don't talk about the other side of, you know, black on black crime and things like that. And I was like, yeah, they don't really talk about that, because there are a lot of black, you know, neighborhoods that are dangerous. And you know, to each his own. If you don't feel that way, I mean, that's totally fine. I know down in South Florida there is, you know, the hood, and then there are also suburban places, and there's not just necessarily, doesn't mean a white person can't commit a crime in a black neighborhood. It doesn't mean a black man can't commit a crime in a white neighborhood. It just means that, you know, when you're at a certain location, you kind of gotta, I don't know, watch your back a little bit more. And I live in a safer part of Florida, kind of a it's not like, you know, super suburban, but it's definitely not like, you know, hood. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, when Steven Crowder talked about that, it kind of opened my mind a little bit, and it made me, like, someone who was in group think, kind of think independently. And I think that it really is what the Conservative Party is people who might not think so grouply with, you know, when you're in a city and you're watching Hollywood stars. Pretty much like a lot of you know, people in cities and Hollywood stars are liberal, are Democratic. And I just couldn't really, like, I was like, you know, maybe, like, thinking about it, you know, watching Ben Shapiro and watching, you know, these different people say, oh, actually Donald Trump is doing, you know, having these policies and having these foreign policies, and it's not necessarily that he's a bad president, and, you know, inflation goes down, and things are a little bit cheaper, and, you know, unemployment is lower, and, you know what I mean? And I really don't know too much about it, because I know that's what every president says, you know, oh, we have good foreign policy, we're, you know, providing healthcare, making it easier on people. And I don't really know, honestly, too much about it. I just know that things aren't so black and white the way I was taught growing up, and I think that's important if we want to, put it, independent thinkers in America and have people think independently for themselves rather than being someone like, Joe Biden said, oh, if you don't vote for me, you're not black, which really what he's doing is he's targeting people that look at Obama and say, oh, Obama was a Democrat, so he's black. They're targeting people that are in group think versus like people that are thinking for themselves. Black people might think for themselves and say, hey, I don't support Joe Biden for this reason, that reason, what his plans are, what his tax plan is. I think people should have, I don't know, maybe, someone might think, no matter what color you are, we shouldn't tax the rich as much, or significantly more than we're taxing the middle class. Maybe they think that we should tax us equally, or I don't know. I don't mean to get too into it. I know I'm kind of jumping around between white privilege, and getting into where we're at, like, as far as us, the racial division in our country, and politicians and presidents. To be honest with you, where I lie is I don't trust anyone. I definitely don't trust the government. I'd rather have a free market society than have someone voting in and having power, a lot more power over me. I think we should all, like, at least in a capitalistic society, we as the people can decide, what to choose, what to buy, and have that capitalistic kind of competition to make prices lower. Typically that's what happens, if somebody's selling something to you. But if you can look across the street and find a gas station that's selling, gas at a lower price, you're going to go to that lower price gas station. Same thing with t-shirts. This was free from my grandfather that passed away, and it's just kind of a little bit of my thoughts, but I know I kind of scattered around a little bit. But yeah, pretty much, I don't know. I just kind of thought for myself a little bit as, a white man that did probably believe in white privilege. I remember one time in 11th grade, I said, my teacher said, what if somebody called someone, insulted someone with a derogatory term? And I said, oh, they'd be jailed for hate speech. But I don't know where I came up with that, because I'm like, wait, no, they wouldn't. You know what I mean? People have the freedom to express themselves, or have the freedom of speech, at least, in any way they want. They can say pretty much whatever they want, as long as it's not a call to action, which I do agree with. And I think that if somebody wants to speak their mind or say anything, as long as it's not a call to action, I think that's totally okay. I don't care what color, race, gender you are. If somebody wants to identify a certain way, I think that's okay. It doesn't matter to me. But does it mean like I inherently believe something just because somebody says something, whether it's true or not? I won't necessarily believe them if somebody says, oh, if they say, if they look like me, but I say I'm a woman, I'd be like, that's fine, dude. I mean, or fine, ma'am, whatever. But I probably wouldn't go out of my way to like be their best friend, or like have them super inclusive in my life if they're going to be offended by me misgendering them or whatever. Like, I think you have the freedom to express yourself whichever way you want. But if you're gonna come around me, expect me to kind of conform to something I'm really not used to and not part of my lifestyle, I think I should have at least the freedom to say, hey, I might not want you to be too inclusive in my life, as far as, because I do like dark humor. I like, joking around. I do like joking around about politics. I like joking around about, different people, what people look like, it's just in a way that I think that when we tease each other about our insecurities or things that are kind of outside of the norm, it brings us closer together. And rather than us bringing each other apart. Like, if someone said, hey, you have big ears, I would laugh at that. You know what I mean? Like, look at my ears, they're fucking huge. I learned to laugh at those things. I'm like, yeah, they are big. I have very Jewish features. Or if somebody was short, I'd be like, oh, how's the weather down there? I don't know, just playful teasing. I'm not making fun of anyone. I'm not necessarily going out of my way to bring someone down, but I'm more in teasing people and saying, hey, this is pretty offensive. These are things that we might offend one another, but in reality, if we're comfortable with ourselves, we kind of grow closer together, and we say, hey, I'm totally comfortable with how I look. Are you comfortable with how you look? And then I think that's a lot of a way men kind of, specific men between other men kind of grow closer together, is when we do kind of tease each other a little bit, kind of do dog on each other a little bit. It's one way that we, connect. So yeah, that's my rant. Just kind of a little story of how, like, I grew up Democratic, but kind of went to the other side. And you guys let me know what your political beliefs are and what you believe, and you are free to do so in the comment section below. See you guys.